Welcome to the Making the Brand Show with Damian and Timeesha Duncan. Each week, power couple Damian and Timeesha are taking you behind the scenes to share their stories on creating a successful brand while tackling your biggest business struggles. Their mission? To help you build the business and life of your dreams today.
Welcome to another episode of Making the Brand. Today we have a special treat for you guys. This is something I've been wanting to cover for a long time because I'm telling you guys right now, if you are an entrepreneur and you are trying to grow your business, and if you are not using LinkedIn to leverage that platform to find your prospects, to find ideal clients, you are playing yourself. So I'm going to give you a pass because maybe you don't know the power of LinkedIn, which is why we have the LinkedIn expert with us today, Ms. Tawana Ross. Tawana, thank you so much for being with us. Tawana is the LinkedIn professional. She knows it all when it comes to being a business owner on LinkedIn and leveraging LinkedIn to find your prospects, to find clients, and to make money using LinkedIn. You know, LinkedIn is one of those untapped resources that people think is just for people who are in corporate America or corporate business, not just corporate America, but they are in a corporate arena, and that's what they use it for, to find jobs. But entrepreneurs are not realizing that this is a sea of place of a sea of place. This is a sea of places where you can find your ideal clients. So Tawana is a best-selling author. She has the book, Class is Now in Session, Your 21 LinkedIn Questions Answered. I don't want to ruin your intro. So Tawana, I want you to tell people exactly what it is you do and share some of your background with LinkedIn.
Oh, thank you so much. I was really loving that intro. Thank you. I appreciate it so much. And as stated, I am Tawana Ross. Although most people know me as the LinkedIn professor, I am a #1 best-selling author. I am a certified brand coach. I am a Forbes Coaches Council member. And it's my job to teach entrepreneurs and wantrepreneurs how to go from being the hunter to the hunted on LinkedIn. Because as I find every day in working with entrepreneurs and wantrepreneurs, like you said, most people think of LinkedIn as the place to go to find a job. And unfortunately for us in the entrepreneur space, that's simply a fallacy that we cannot afford to believe. Like, we literally cannot afford to believe that, because LinkedIn is actually a massive branding tool. And if we use it as a massive branding tool, we can literally stop looking for opportunities, because that's what most people are doing on LinkedIn, and go into the space of being found for opportunities, because our brand is so magnetic and it's so visible that we are hunted down, completely changing the nature of our business. And that is my story. I was completely anonymous online 4 years ago, like literally completely anonymous. In fact, I'm on the cover of a magazine where the caption reads, in 2014, Tawana was anonymous.
Wow.
So to go from being completely anonymous online to having this brand that allows me to travel all over and talking about the impact of building a brand, and specifically on LinkedIn, is a complete reversal from what I saw my life turning out to be just a few years ago. So I love to talk to people about this platform, because when I say that it changed my life, people think I'm exaggerating until they see for themselves. So thank you so much for sharing your platform with me today, because this is just more of an impact that we get to make, and more people that finally come awake from sleeping on LinkedIn. So thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Awesome. Thank you for being here, Tawana. So let's jump right into it. I'm excited about this podcast, because one of the things I want to ask you, so when you get on LinkedIn, right, everyone has their profile, and a lot of people don't even take it serious. I mean, I've had a LinkedIn profile for God knows how many years. And, I started taking it serious because I noticed people were starting to, request me as a friend and things like that. So what is the first, what are some of the things that, you talked about going from being the hunter to being the hunted? So how does that happen? Talk through that process a little bit.
Sure, absolutely. Really, in looking at this from a big picture perspective, if someone is managing their brand and they're marketing their brand and they're all about monetizing their brand, then they talk to us differently. Their whole talk track looks and sounds different. And that should be consistent on a platform like LinkedIn. And so one thing I encourage people to do is go look at your profile, go open it right now, read through it. If your profile looks like a resume, if it sounds like a resume, if it feels like a resume, it probably is an online resume, which means you are not benefiting from the impact of this platform, because nobody wants to read your resume. Not even the hiring manager that's supposed to read your resume.
That is very true.
Nobody wants to read your resume. And even if they did want to read your resume looks and sounds like everybody else's. So there is no possible way that you will stand out in a massive platform of 500 million professionals with that kind of content. So I always encourage people to think about your talk track from a branding perspective. And the same way that you introduce yourself and the same way that you go about every day as a brand is the same look and feel that we should witness on LinkedIn. And if you look at your profile and shift that language from an online resume into an actual conversation with people, now you're in a situation where people can engage with you. They want to engage with you. They want to learn what your brand is all about. They send you messages that say things like, oh my gosh, your profile stood out and I had to become a part of your network. That's a total shift from what people get when they have an online resume. And so if anything else, I encourage people, go look at your profile. If it looks like a resume, let's change that right now. Do not pass go. Do not collect $200. Change the messaging on your profile and do one thing in particular. Talk to us in the first person. So some of you out there have profiles that are in the third person. And when you talk to us in the third person, we realize we're not actually connecting with you. We might as well have picked up a brochure and read about your business, because that's the same kind of language we would see on a brochure. But if you talk to us in the first person, we are more likely to connect and engage with you and want to actually do some business and have some conversations so that you can build your know, like, and trust factor. So go to your profile, put it in the first person, and from here on out, stop thinking of LinkedIn as an online resume.
I'm glad you mentioned that, Tawana, because that was actually going to be one of my next questions, because people debate that all the time, how they should actually write their profile. Should it be in the first person? Should it be in the third person? So can you share with us, I know that we need to write as if we're in a conversation or we're speaking with people that we want to connect with. So what are some of the things that people should include inside of their profile?
Great question. Great question. Because what we don't want to see is a series of bullet points highlighting every award you've won since 1982. We don't care. Okay. We don't care. What we do care about, though, is the result of all of those awards. So if you're highly accomplished and skilled and gifted and talented in a particular area, tell us how that gift can solve our problems. Because let's face it, we live in America. This is a very narcissistic society. This is a very self-absorbed society. Nobody cares about you. They only care about what you can do for them.
Exactly.
And as they're perusing through LinkedIn, that's their mindset. So if you know that going in, that the average person looking at your profile is probably thinking about what you can do for them, then write your content that way. And if nothing else, your content should be very heavy on the problems that you solve for the demographic that you impact. So if we open your profile, we see a very clear visual of whether or not we are within your demographic and whether or not you can solve our problems. So that's way more about us than it is about you in terms of the content. And I know that's a shift for a lot of people, because 9 times out of 10, the profiles I read every day are very me focused. They're very focused on me, the individual. Let me tell you how awesome I am. And I promise you, nobody cares. They only care about how your awesome sauce can help them in their life in solving the problems they have. So if nothing else, change your content so that it's heavier on the impact that you make for the audience that you serve. And that alone will shift how we engage with you on LinkedIn.
Absolutely, because we talk about this every day to a lot of our clients, and most of the time, the me factor is what stops people from growing their business. The me factor is what stops businesses and other entities from wanting to do business with you, because you sound so self-centered, and nobody wants to hear that these days. It's like you said, it's what have you done for me lately type of society that we live in. And if you're not adhering to that, and Timeesha and I usually use the term, when everyone is zigging, we zag.
Yes.
And basically that's what you're saying. It's the way how you should set up your profile on LinkedIn should be something that separates you from the noise of the resume format of So it's all about differentiation and not making it about you, more so about the value and the result that you can create for the client, which will, like you said, with your profile, will increase the know, like, and trust phenomenon.
Absolutely. And that's really the impact of your brand. And so the stronger your brand messaging and the stronger your brand consistency on the platform, the more likely it is that the people you're connected to and their network will see you, and you'll become top of mind when they think of that particular need that they have. You will automatically be top of mind. And so that's what separates someone who's just on LinkedIn with someone who's really taking advantage of the impact of the tool. I also do encourage people, though, to recognize and accept that the magic of LinkedIn isn't actually tied to your profile, which is a mindset shift for a lot of people. I spoke to someone the other day that didn't even realize that there's a timeline on LinkedIn. They never, ever knew that there was a timeline on LinkedIn. They thought LinkedIn was all about their profile. Now, I'm the first to say that, when I'm working with my clients, their profile is the first phase of my program. So we do optimize that profile content and that brand messaging first, because that's necessary in that when you start engaging on the platform and when you have the right eyeballs on you on LinkedIn, all roads do lead back to your profile. And no matter what you do for a living, no matter what industry you're in, people will always go look you up on LinkedIn to learn more about your professional brand. So that profile really is important. Although when people start peeling back the layers of the tool, they'll see that there's way more out there on this platform than just how you present yourself on your profile. So I always encourage people to sit down and strategize how you engage, how you show up on LinkedIn, where your brand can be found, how we see your brand, and how you're actually using the features and functionality of the tool itself.
So let's dig into that, because I know for myself, I have, I'm on LinkedIn, my profile is optimized, but it's not a tool that I have been used to using every day versus Facebook or Instagram or even YouTube. And so I want to know, what are some of the magic behind the tools and the things that LinkedIn can do, and where should people actually be spending their time on LinkedIn optimizing their brand? And then we'll talk about how to find prospects as well. So let's first talk about optimizing their brand. Where should they be hanging out?
Absolutely. So in hanging out on LinkedIn to really solidify your brand as the authority in your lane, there are a couple of places that I would encourage people to spend time. As a matter of fact, I do teach people how to master LinkedIn in 9 minutes a day once they are familiar with navigating the tool. Because if you do just set aside 9 minutes a day as you're mindlessly scrolling on social media, you can do some real damage on LinkedIn. in that your timeline is one of the places to hang out. Your timeline is where you see the content from the people that you're connected to. So these are the folks that are in your immediate network that literally are one connection away from you. These are the eyeballs that are watching you. And if you've built your network strategically, you have people in your network that are not just ideal clients, which is the number one thing that I hear all the time from people is, how do I find clients on LinkedIn? And I think about that as an entrepreneur, that if you're only connected to ideal clients, what about the rest of your business ecosystem? What about what happens when you need publishers, when you need procurement officials? What happens when you need a lawyer? What happens when you need anyone else that it takes to run your business? You've got to focus beyond the ideal demographic that you serve, because LinkedIn truly is a business tool and you've got to be able to use it that way. Now, aside from your timeline, some of the most magical conversations I've ever had on LinkedIn occur within my inbox. Okay. So as silly as it sounds, people should really set aside time to get strategic about how they show up in people's inboxes. And this one is a big thing on LinkedIn, because on LinkedIn, people have the tendency to want to sell us their products and services. And that is not what this platform is about. I promise you, that is not what LinkedIn is about. So if you've got it in your head that you want to sell to your ideal clients, you probably have it in your mind that you're going to use sales language when you interact with people. You're going to show up in their inboxes. You're going to show up on their timeline. And the things that you're saying are things like, go to my website and sign up for my blah, 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 blah. We don't want to hear all that. We're not clicking your links. We're not going to your pages, and we're not buying from you if that's your approach. And so I strongly encourage people to get strategic about how you show up in people's inboxes. Now, maybe it's not fair, because my background is business sales, and in training and being in business sales, I understand the process and the psychology behind sales. I know that people don't buy from you until the 7th to the 12th touch. And an understanding that that's how people interact with you when they become a buyer, I'm not even going to talk to you about my products or services until we've had that kind of engagement back and forth, because quite frankly, I don't have the right to talk to you about my products and services until we've had that kind of back and forth exchange. And so for people to show up in inboxes wanting to sell their products and services is not only damaging to your brand, but it's making sure that LinkedIn is not the place for your business to grow. And I tell people all the time, LinkedIn is either sales prevention or it's sales enablement. It's one of the two. But what you don't want to do there is actively sell, because when you actively sell on LinkedIn, LinkedIn will become sales prevention for your business. And that is a critical mindset shift that a lot of folks need to wake up on.
Oh, yeah. I mean, absolutely. I mean, I get inboxes all the time, and I will tell you it's a turnoff, because I'm like, who are you? What is your name? What do you do? So, it's, you haven't. So what I'm hearing you say too is use LinkedIn, use the timeline as an opportunity to show or establish yourself as the authority or expert in that particular subject area of what which is your expertise, right? That's pretty much what you're saying, right? One of the things that you can use.
Absolutely.
Tawana, then if they shouldn't use, or we shouldn't use our inbox per se and I totally agree and know that, what should they be doing with their inbox instead? So how do you start those conversations with people that you don't know without talking about your services, your products, and what you offer?
Wonderful question. Wonderful question. And again, I'm of the mindset that if you put the spotlight on the people that you're engaging with and take the spotlight off of you, you're more likely to have a robust discussion which highlights that person's skills and expertise. And so as I connect with people that I may not know, even folks that I do know, I always send a message immediately upon connecting with someone. That establishes my piece of real estate in their inbox immediately, because that's the beginning of our back and forth engagement on this platform anyway. And so a lot of times I'll use that opportunity to be curious about the person that I'm speaking with. I may not know anything about what they do or where they're based and where their impact is. And that engagement early on is my opportunity to be the nerd that I am and be curious about what it is they do. And so for the first several engagements that I have with someone that I don't know, I keep that hat on. I keep the hat on of wanting to learn more about this individual. And then all the while, as I'm listening and I'm learning, I can't help but, my brain is wired to always be thinking, how do I serve this individual based on what they've told me? Now, that's not the same thing as sales. That's more or less a needs analysis. I'm listening and I'm learning about them and targeting where their problems might be that I can solve. And at some point in that relationship, after back and forth, after building that know, like, and trust factor, when they're interested in having those conversations about how I might be able to solve problems, then it's appropriate to do so. But in the meantime, really, your inbox on LinkedIn is best suited for natural, organic conversations where you are literally one-on-one with someone. You've got their full attention, but it's not about you. It's about them. And one of the most brilliant approaches I've seen from people that I don't know who end up in my inbox is when they tell me that, or when they show me that they've done their research. They've either gone to my profile, maybe they Googled me, maybe they went to YouTube, but they've seen some sort of content about my brand. And in their message to me, they highlight whatever it was that they saw and how that made an impact on them. So now I've got context to go off of in terms of which direction to go with this individual in this private conversation. But I'm a fan of switching the dynamics of the conversation so that it's more about them and less about you.
Now, and thank you for that, Tawana. Now, from the perspective of social proof and showing the results that you've created for past clients, is it efficient for you or smart for a LinkedIn user to put video of testimonials, that type of thing on their profiles for people to see? What is your take on that?
Absolutely. Not just on their profile, but media in general should be in as many nooks and crannies as possible on LinkedIn. So that would be your profile, that would be your status updates, that would be articles that you're publishing on LinkedIn, that would even be within people's inboxes and certainly within niche groups. So if you're in niche groups, for example, I'm a speaker, I'm a professional speaker, and I join speaking groups on LinkedIn in order to network with other speakers. And groups like that are the perfect place to share video because our business as speakers is very visual. People want to see you speaking. So absolutely, media should be included just about anywhere, anytime possible on the platform, not to mention from an algorithm standpoint, and this is where I get all nerdy on people, but from an algorithm standpoint, your content will stand out even more and have longer legs, so to speak, if it includes media. That goes for your profile as well.
Now, I'm glad you mentioned the algorithm. So I have like so many questions are jumping up in my head. I'm like, pew, pew, pew. So I got to pace myself here so that they're in order. So I want to talk about the algorithm, so don't let me forget that. But I want to backtrack just a second in regards to, starting and initiating these connections, because I know that, people are intimidated by starting conversations with people that they don't know. So do you have like maybe a go-to thing that you maybe start conversations, like that one liner or something that you say just to initiate the conversation? And then of course, based on what they say, you can now create the dialogue, but what is that thing that kind of starts the conversation?
I love this question. Love this question because I'm going to throw a tip at you here, and I hope folks can follow this because your question is very specific in that you're wanting to know how to start the conversation, and a lot of times that start to the conversation is when someone sends a connection request, especially to an individual they may not know. Okay, now here's where the mindset shift comes in. Here's where the tip comes in. Some folks got to write this down. I encourage my clients to stop sending connection requests to anyone who is not in your top 10 most important human beings on the planet. Okay, so if you are not Neil deGrasse Tyson, if you're not Melody Hobson, if you're not any of my top 10 most important human beings on the planet, you will probably never receive a LinkedIn request to connect from me. And the reason behind that is that most people have no idea you have a limited amount of connection requests on LinkedIn. There is a cap. You only get so many connection requests, and when they're all gone, they're all gone. Okay, now this is for the life of your account. So that might not be a big deal today, but it could be a huge deal 10 years from now when you're looking to migrate into a different space and you need to expand your network into a whole different corner of the world. So from that perspective, I am very choosy and encourage people to be very choosy about who you send connection requests to. Now, in terms of receiving them, which is more likely the activity that I see in my day, is I've received a connection request from someone, whether I know them or not. I want to accept or not accept that request. And if I accept, again, I immediately send them a note as soon as I request it. And in terms of language, every note that I send is different for every individual. However, I always begin that note with thanks for your connection request, because that much is consistent for every single connection request that I receive and accept. At bare minimum, I have a thank you for that person. But beyond that thank you is the actual personalized response that I give for every single person that I engage with on LinkedIn. And this is critical because as you probably saw the other day on Facebook, I am always posting the connection requests that I receive from people that are canned messages. We know they're canned messages. We read them and it's clear that they are canned messages. The same verbiage that they sent to me is the same verbiage they sent to the other 200 people they sent that email to today. And so it doesn't make you feel special when your content is copied and pasted and it's clear that it was copied and pasted. So I beg people, not only should you personalize your outgoing connection requests, but you should always personalize every interaction you have with people on LinkedIn, because that's what you would do if you were networking with them in person. And LinkedIn and networking on LinkedIn is the same thing as networking in person. The difference is now you have access to 500 million people, but the skill set of networking is still the same. And so you want to have personalized content every time you interact with someone. Does that answer your question?
Yes, a little bit, because now you've brought on another question.
Right.
Is if your suggestion is not to actually make connections with people who are not part of your top 10, then how is it that you're able to connect with people if you don't suggest connecting with people that you really don't know in your circle?
This is a little cat and mouse game here, but it's one that works. There's a page on LinkedIn that is the most popular page, and people spend the most time on the entire platform looking at this one page. So going back to the point that Americans are very self-absorbed and very narcissistic, right? There's a page in LinkedIn called Who's Viewed Your Profile? We've all seen this page. It's the page that shows you every individual that has opened your profile, right? And apparently, according to LinkedIn's data, that's the page where we stay on the longest. We open it the most and we stay on it the longest. So knowing that information, in my approach in using LinkedIn, part of my goal is to end up on that page for individuals that I want to connect with. And these are individuals that I don't want to send a connection request to, but they're individuals where maybe we've got some commonality and maybe we've got an opportunity for a mutually beneficial relationship. And when that's the case, if I simply go open their profile, they will see me on that page. They will see the fact that I opened their profile. Their curiosity will get the best of them. They will send me a connection request. And in the few times where that didn't happen the first time, I'd simply circle back a couple of weeks later, open their profile again. Now, really the curiosity is setting in because they're going, why has she looked at my profile a couple of times recently? Let me see what she's all about. And seriously, 9 times out of 10, they send me a connection request. So I get to save my bucket of requests, and they sent me one, which allows me to then turn right around and send them that message establishing my real estate in their inbox. And by the way, that maximum is 3,000. So in your lifespan, in your lifespan of LinkedIn, you only have 3,000 connection requests. And I don't know about you, but in the years that I've been on the platform, I'm pretty sure that before I found that out, I was sending connection requests left and right. Mm-hmm. So there probably aren't that many left, which means we've got to be very strategic about who we send them to, just as strategic as we are about who we let into our network.
So I'm sorry, you have a question?
Yeah, well, I was going to say, so for all of those individuals that are follower stricken and they got to show people how many followers, you need to go in there and clean out their inbox and make sure that you're strategically following and unfollowing people that are, that you can serve or can serve you. The question that I had that I get a lot from people on LinkedIn is, like where you said, who's viewed your profile? And on some of their profiles, in order to view people who viewed your profile, you have to pay for something. What are some of the tools on LinkedIn that you should pay for and not pay for?
Oh, I love this question. There's one thing in particular, and this falls in the category of sales prevention, by the way. Mm-hmm. LinkedIn has done an excellent job of training us to judge people, okay? We as humans, it's inherent, we judge people, but LinkedIn has really done a solid job in making sure that we judge people by certain things that we see. One of the things that we see on someone's profile, no matter where we are on the platform, whether it's on their profile, whether it's on a timeline, whether it's in a status update, we will always see that little LinkedIn badge for premium next to someone's name. Mm-hmm. Okay. Now, when I go speak in every environment where I speak, I will always ask the audience, what's your perception of people who have the premium LinkedIn account versus the people who have the free account? And it never fails. Every single time there's a brave person in the audience who will raise their hand and they'll say, well, I think the people who have premium are better. And when that person is honest enough to answer the question, you notice that heads are nodding all throughout the audience. People are agreeing that they have this perception about someone who has premium versus the free account. And as we all know, someone's perception is their reality. Mm-hmm. So in less than an instant, people have judged your mindset and your professionalism based on whether or not you have the premium version of LinkedIn. And for us as entrepreneurs, we cannot afford for someone to have the wrong perception about our mindset in business. And for that reason alone, I always beg people, you have got to invest the money in having a premium account on LinkedIn, because the message you're sending us when you don't have the premium account as an entrepreneur is that you don't want us to do business with you. Because if you don't have the mindset to invest in the one tool that you're supposed to be on as a business owner, then why would we want to invest our money in what you do, right? That's sending the wrong message. And I promise you all day that if you use that one page I just spoke about, the Who's Viewed Your Profile page, if you use that page with the premium account, you have 90 days worth of people on that page who have looked at your account versus the 5 people you see if you have the free version. Now, I told you before, my background is sales. So from a sales perspective, that one page on LinkedIn that shows me 90 days worth of warm leads is a prospecting.
You about to hit a home run, and then it was just like.
All right, so we had a little hiccup, but you were talking about the premium account and why people that viewed the most viewed. What is it?
Who's viewed your profile?
Viewed your profile?
Yep.
Okay, so let's pick up from there. So people should invest then in the premium account. And so there are different levels to the premium account, if I remember. So what would be, I guess, the ideal place for people to start where it comes with the premium account?
The basic premium account serves the purpose for most LinkedIn users. Some of the higher premium accounts have to do more so with sales and actually farming for sales. So LinkedIn has an excellent tool called Sales Navigator, and that one is a higher premium plan. I got to tell you, if someone is used to using things like Salesforce in the corporate world, then they would love Sales Navigator on LinkedIn because it allows you to have access to people outside of your network and find just about anyone, anywhere. When I say people outside your network, I mean that with the regular search functionality in LinkedIn, when you execute a search, you are only searching for the people who are within your network. That means your first level connections, your second level connections, and the people who are in common groups with you. So if you are searching for Oprah Winfrey and she's a third level connection for you, you will not see Oprah's content because that's outside of your network. Whereas Sales Navigator would give you access to Oprah as well as all of her content.
Nice.
So I want to touch on that for just a second because I even get confused with that first connection, second connection, third connection. So what does all of that really mean?
It means that LinkedIn was brilliant enough to put a tool in place that really digs into that whole 6 degrees of separation and 4 degrees of separation online. And so from their perspective, your network is just like in real life, the people that you are connected to and the people that they know and the people that they know. So your first level connections on LinkedIn are people that you're directly connected to, meaning somebody, either you or them, sent a connection request and the other person accepted it. So these are your direct connections, okay? That circle beyond them is your second level connections. So these are people you're not directly connected to, but your friends are. So if you and I are connected, then everyone you're connected to becomes my second degree connection. And the idea behind that is if you're a networker and you see that I've got skills, gifts, and talents that might benefit someone that you know, someone that you're connected to, that you as a network would introduce us so that we can be connected and you're the person in the middle to do that. So your second level connections are the people that your connections are directly tied to. Everyone from third and beyond are the word I hear the most are strangers. They are strangers to you. If you wanted to get to people who are 3 degrees or further away from you, you've got to know somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody, right? So the real benefit and the real magic and impact on LinkedIn actually happens with your second level connections. A lot of people don't realize that. A lot of people are focused on who is in their direct network, their first level connections. And not that that's not important, that is important. However, the real magic happens in that second level. So I would put just as much time and energy looking at who the people are connected to within your network.
Awesome.
Does that clarify?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes,
I mean, and like you said, that is actually now, I mean, you just opened up something really big. LinkedIn was brilliant in using that algorithm to, you know, to really, they created a 6-degree level of algorithm dingamajiggies, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
And in order to get to that 6th degree, you got to pay to play. And like you said, you know, we do live in a narcissistic world where people's perception is their reality. And I will tell you, we all have that every now and then. Like, wow, if they're not paying for this membership, it's only $20. Why should I do business with them?
Right.
So, I mean, that does show up. So, you know, that is definitely true.
So that reminds me of my algorithm question. I told you
And
not to let me forget my question.
Why I said algorithm. See, I mean, stay with me here.
Yeah, okay.
She did say, she did ask you not to forget.
And I said, speaking of algorithm, I want to say, hey, babe, so you remember the algorithm question?
Oh, that was your second.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I mean,
I love it.
With the algorithm, you mentioned that posting content basically gives you a longer shelf life. So is the LinkedIn algorithm similar to how the Facebook and the Instagram algorithm change like every 3 minutes? But is it a situation where if you're posting more content, you're being exposed to more people, or are you just being exposed to people in your first level of connections? How does that work?
Oh, great question. Whenever you show up at all, your content has the potential of reaching your second and third level connections. So you want to write from that perspective and share from that perspective and curate from that perspective. It's not just your first level connections that will see your content. Now, that said, your content, again, is a way for us to judge your brand. And so how you show up is key, in addition to who sees you when you show up. And so if you look at LinkedIn from a global perspective, meaning it's more than just the people that you're directly connected to, it's how you show up, period. Okay. And when people understand that, they're more likely to pay attention to their brand message, because your brand message on the platform is what makes you stand out. When we see that brand consistently, that's what makes you stand out from everybody else. When your message is clear and we understand what problems you solve, that's when you stand out from everybody else. And so to be cognizant of who you're connected to, as well as who they're connected to, because that's where the opportunity lies, you're more likely to be strategic in how you show up and who you're showing up for. Does that make sense?
It does. So would you treat LinkedIn the way you would treat a Facebook or an Instagram so with that being said, is it a platform that you should be posting content on every day? Do you need to post every day? Can you post, once a week? What's the right kind of strategy for posting content on LinkedIn?
I get this question all the time, and literally all the time, because we have become a social media world in that we live our lives somewhere on some social media platform. And if you're looking at how people use LinkedIn or how people use social media in general, it's their way to stay connected to you. It's a way for you to stay on people's radar. And for LinkedIn specifically, I beg people to understand out of sight equals out of mind. Okay, so for the young man who called me the other day and was bragging about the fact that he posts once a week on LinkedIn, I had to put my phone on mute. Like I did not want to break his heart, because I had to laugh out loud at that one, thinking to myself, really? On what platform would that work if you showed up once a week when we literally see hundreds of posts from individuals within that same amount of time, and you want us to be focused on your one post if we actually see it?
Mm-hmm.
The algorithm is not on your side to begin with. So when you post content, please trust and believe the vast majority of people you're connected to will never see that content. Okay, you got to understand that about algorithms in general. The algorithms are designed for you to pay. So understand that eyeballs are not always on your content the way you think they are. And so if you're only posting once a week on a platform that's designed for you to establish and solidify your real estate as an authority, once a week is probably not going to cut it. It probably is not going to work in your favor, showing up once a week when your competition is showing up 16 times a day.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's put that in perspective, because from a volume point of view, the amount of content and how often you're posting content is directly tied to how many people will actually see that content. So if you're only posting once a week, and it's content that maybe we don't engage with, maybe we don't comment, like, and share, that is not helping your brand get found. It's not helping you solidify and establish yourself as an authority. And from a social proof perspective, you don't even have a library of social proof of comments of people co-signing your content. So really, when it comes to determining how often you should show up and how to show up, someone has got to sit down and actually create a content calendar. A content calendar that identifies when you're posting and what kind of content you're posting, so that you can find your flow, find your rhythm, and stick to that rhythm so that the rest of us can stick to your brand.
Right. Now, so I have a two-part question to that. So we do know, well, video content is king. So do you what's the word? Suggest, yes. Suggest that you do a lot of video content. And number two, like, you look at a lot of people's, we talked about this, this phenomenon of people putting posts out there that is just self-centered, do you recommend people do that type of stuff, or do you recommend,
when you say self-centered,
you got people, they got pictures of themselves. That's not really showing me what that's going to do for me, that you were having breakfast with friends. So well, it's actually a 3-point question. Should your content be solely based on the results that you create, in a cat and mousey kind of way?
Okay, so for this piece alone, there actually is a place for us to see that you had breakfast with so-and-so. When that breakfast with so-and-so is directly tied to something business related that we actually care about, right? Okay. So it's not the eggs and bacon on the plate that we care about.
It's who you having breakfast with.
It's that relationship and what came about as a result of that interaction. So if that result can help you, again, establish or solidify yourself as an authority, then yeah, show us the bacon and eggs, but you got to create that context around it. Otherwise, it's just, like you said, it's just self-centered. It's just you again. And by the time we see that a few times, we're going to hide your content on our timeline so that we don't see any more of that. But the reason I say that there is a place for some of this that's more personal in nature versus, hey, I just had a meeting with the CIO, blah, 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 blah. The currency right now that holds so much weight is authenticity. Okay. Authenticity is currency right now, meaning people have to see the real you. People have to see beyond just the formal buttoned up you. They've got to actually be able to see vulnerability from you in order to truly stick to your brand, so that your know, like, and trust factor can be increased. Because let's face it, all of us on some level have the same story, right? We listen to people's story all the time, especially the influencers of the world. We listen to what happened in their world that can be a demonstration for us or inspiration for us, to turn our lives around from a personal development standpoint. But let's be real about it. Everybody has the same story. We came from nothing. We worked hard. We did this. We did that. We sacrificed and we made it to the top. We all have that in common. So if that's the case, what really makes you stand out? What's really different about you? What's your special sauce? And that's what we're more likely to attach to on a platform like LinkedIn, which is typically buttoned up and formal. So a little vulnerability and some organic authenticity on that platform will have different results for those brands out there that are sticky brands.
Well, yeah, absolutely. That vulnerability is, you may have some people who have done exceptional things, but they still have those vulnerabilities, and you meeting them where they're at with that vulnerability will help build that know, like, and trust phenomenon with them as well. And then, you guys come up and possibly do business or something in the near future. The third part of the question was, I noticed, and this is from a personal perspective, I've put out stuff on LinkedIn and didn't get a lot of engagement. And I noticed there was a delay in the engagement. So I could put something out on Monday and won't see engagement until Wednesday or Thursday. Now, is that directly connected to the type of membership that you're a part of? Does that play a role in it as well? And what I mean by that, and I think I know the answer to this, but does that play a role in it? And because the amount of people that are not seeing it are not seeing it, based on the type of member that I am on LinkedIn?
A couple of things play a part in that, and you're right. The membership level that you're using for LinkedIn is a part of how the algorithm treats your content. Okay, so people who have the top premier account, as an example, see content and get positioned faster and better than other people on the platform because they've invested in having that functionality. So yes, you're right about that. Another piece that a lot of people don't realize impacts how and where they show up on the platform is how many people you're actually connected to. Okay. So you may notice when you're looking at someone on LinkedIn, you'll see their name and their headline, but you'll also see where it says 500 plus if they have more than 500 people in their network. And until they get to 500, you'll always see the actual number of people in their network. And a lot of people have no idea that until you get to 500 connections on LinkedIn, your profile is being suppressed and you are not showing up in normal traffic areas. So places like a timeline, places like a search result. In general, LinkedIn is not positioning you because LinkedIn assumes that with a small network, you don't want to be positioned. So one of the strategies that I work with people on in my program is how to build their network, but build the right network of people so that you're not focused just on that number, right? We've got a lot of folks out there telling you about how they've got 30,000 connections. They've got millions upon millions of followers. And I always think to myself, that's great. But out of that 30,000 connection base, which one of those can you call right now and ask them for $10,000 because your back's against the wall? How many people out of that 30,000 are that down with you that they will show up in the time of need? It's not about how many connections you have. It's about the weight of the engagement and the relationships that you build with people. And for that and that alone, the number of connections you have on LinkedIn is important, but I really encourage people to focus on the actual relationships that you're building with these folks in the process, and you'll find that the number will take care of itself with that approach.
Nice. And that's how I always felt.
I have so many more questions. I'm like, wait, but what about this? But we're going to have to bring you back on the show tomorrow, because this is just like really, really good content. And I know, I mean, I've learned so much, and I know a good amount about LinkedIn, but I'm still a novice when it comes to navigating the platform. And so I'm so glad that you shared this, because I even learned, a ton of things like, oh, I need to do this. Okay, I'm going to, and it's good information, because as we said at the top of the show, there's so many things that people can be doing with LinkedIn to grow their brand and grow their business, and they just don't know how to use the platform.
And then I think the biggest thing too is with social media, people are so worried about how many followers they have, whatever traffic source you're thinking about. I mean, our 7-year-old is a YouTube sensation in the making, and that's all he worries about. And, I've always been the zagger where I'm like, having these followers is great, but how many of these 30,000, 40,000 followers, like you said, I'll steal that one that you can get on the phone and say, hey man, I need $10,000, or hey, how many of those 40 to 50,000 people have actually engaged with you enough to want to do business with you?
Right.
It looks, and again, and it's like a double-edged sword, because perception is people's reality. The assumption is if you have over 1 million followers that you are an influencer, which most are, most aren't. Well, they are influencers, but they're not really creating the results for people. But I'm glad that you. I know better now, a lot better with LinkedIn, and I'm going to do better. And the listeners.
That is awesome.
Yeah, we definitely have to bring you back, because I have questions about groups. I have questions about automation tools. There's so many things that I want to know. And if I want to know them, I know there are other people out there that are curious about these things too. But for now, we'll stop it there, because Tawana, you gave so much information, so much resources. You guys are going to have to probably go back and listen to this show, because I certainly am going back to listen to the show this time with a pen and my LinkedIn up, like, all right,
exactly.
I'm gonna do this.
I'm gonna be doing that today.
Yes, I love it. That's awesome.
And it sounds like LinkedIn is the ultimate. I mean, we've talked about this, but LinkedIn is the ultimate zag that people just don't know about.
And the last thing that I want to say about this is what makes it great is that everybody is so concentrated with Facebook. And I'm an Instagram fiend. I just actually released one of my signature programs around Instagram. But the reality is, while everybody is over here busy with Facebook, Instagram, and all these other platforms, why not utilize this untapped resource so that you can stand out more, and where there's less noise?
And I'm the YouTube junkie, so it's not too people on YouTube, but they're using YouTube more for reviews, but that's another tool where you can zig and zag with LinkedIn. So I mean, I got some major things turning in our head right now.
So I love that. I love when the wheels turn.
Yes. And that's when it starts to really, you're like, I love that as well, because that's when I know that, people are going to get value as well as we're getting value from the things. And it's not just, information that you're constantly hearing. So Tawana, I know the listeners want to find a way to get in contact with you. I know you have some programs and things that you can help others really expand on the information that you shared with us. So please tell the listeners where they can find you. And of course, if there's anything that you have going on that they need to know about.
Absolutely. People can always find me on my website, thelinkedinprofessor.com. That's thelinkedinprofessor.com. I actually love to speak with people about LinkedIn, especially folks who are just coming onto the platform and not quite sure which direction to go. So on my website, if you click on virtual coffee, there's a place where you can actually get on my calendar for us to have virtual coffee. That virtual coffee session is usually 15 minutes, but if somebody watches this podcast and they put bombshell in the comments, I will actually double that so that your virtual coffee is 30 minutes, so we can really dig down and build a strategy so that you can go off and running with LinkedIn. And for those that actually want to work with me on that process. So maybe you need some extra guidance. It's not quite as intuitive of a platform as we would like. So in that regard, I'm actually going to match any investment someone makes in working with me. So if you schedule a private session, I will match that. You'll get 2 private sessions. If you schedule 2 private sessions, I will match that. You'll get 4 private sessions.
Wow.
That's how much I want to spend time in working with your audience, specifically entrepreneurs, on how to use this platform to go from being the hunter to the hunted. And for those that are DIYers and like to learn on their own, you can always go to either Amazon, Walmart, or Barnes & Noble. My book class is now in session. Your 21 LinkedIn questions will be there for you to purchase. But by all means, I encourage people to get on my calendar. Let's actually have a conversation about LinkedIn so that I can help create clarity for you on using this massive branding tool. So again, it's thelinkedinprofessor.com. You want to click on virtual coffee. And if you put bombshell in the comments, I'll double your virtual coffee and we'll actually have 30 minutes to chat. And again, I will match any investment that someone makes in working with me so that we can really do some damage on this platform. It is part of my mission to teach as many Black women as possible, Black mothers as possible, how to grow and build businesses. I am not a mother myself, but I heard one of my influencers one day, George C. Fraser, make the statement that the best indicator for wealth in the Black community is when a Black mother owns a business. And ever since I heard him say that, it became apparent to me that I can use my gifts, skills, and talents to teach Black mothers how to build businesses, which will enable us as a people to create generational wealth. I don't have to have kids to fulfill that mission. So I'm all about teaching as many Black mothers as possible how to use a tool like LinkedIn. That doesn't mean the fathers and the Black men out there are not welcome to show up on my calendar. You're more than welcome to show up on my calendar as well. I am single, but this is all about LinkedIn.
No, absolutely. Georgia T. Fraser is a beast.
Isn't he though? Mm-hmm. Yes. Now he is one of the top 10 people on the planet to me. So wow. I will send him a connection request.
I need to do that. Him and Dr. Claude Anderson as well.
Yes, Claude Anderson as well, both of which are on my list for sure. I couldn't believe it. I had a moment when I looked at my phone one day and saw that George was actually following me on Instagram. And I'm like, what?
Wow.
How does that happen? How does he even know my name? That's what a brand on LinkedIn will do.
Great things.
Thank you.
Amazing. And you guys, what you're offering, Tawana, is amazing. So you guys better jump on that because you don't know how long that opportunity is going to come. Mm-hmm. Tawana is doing this, gifting you guys with these bonuses. So please make sure that you guys head over to her website, thelinkedinprofessor.com.
And make sure you type in bombshell.
Yes.
So you can
bombshell equals double the time.
That's right. Mm-hmm. Thank you so much. We really enjoyed you, and I can't wait to have you back on again so we can dig into this a little bit deeper.
It's been my pleasure. I certainly enjoy your brand. The two of you together are phenomenal, doing great things, and it's my pleasure to be here and offer some value. So thank you for sharing your platform.
Are you ready to take your brand to the next level? For more information, show notes, downloads, and free resources, head to www.damianandtimeesha.com, where you can find out more about this week's episode and the power couple behind it all.